Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on August the 30th, 2022. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, the professor of this show,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will be discussing our August Game Club, which is Pokemon Sun and Moon, although I think both of us played Sun.
Ultra Sun.
Well, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
There is a difference.
We will be revealing our next Game Club game for the month of September. And we'll have a couple of stops in Community Corner. The least likable developer on Steam may have hit the limit of its permissive moderation, and PlayStation is hit by a $5.9 billion lawsuit for, quote, ripping people off on digital games. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm alright. You caused us not to record last week, but I was kind of on the cusp of it with just seasonal allergies just kicking my ass.
Yep.
So I'm on the very tail end of it. I just had a bunch of drainage just down in my chest, and it's just at that point, it's just hell trying to do really anything.
Yeah. I was sick last week. At first I thought I caught something from either my kid or from my wife, because she was sick, but she has been given a diagnosis of a new chronic condition, so she's got her first one now. That she has to go see a specialist in a couple of weeks. I forget what it's called, SH, I think. I don't know what the two letters stand for. But it causes her to get like chronic development of like painful cysts under her skin. I guess I don't know where else they would pop up, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they hurt, and sometimes they can get infected, and that's what they think it was. She's going to see a specialist, I think next week or in 2 weeks. So I definitely didn't get that because I don't have that. So I went to go see my doctor again, and they're like, "Yep, you look fine." It's like, oh, I very clearly am not fine. I have a sore throat. I'm tired. I'm coughing. They're like, well, you've probably just got a cold. But, upon further conversation, they're like, yeah, your immune system is pretty wrecked still. This might be
let's give you a nice brain poke.
Yeah, this might be a long COVID thing. I tested negative for COVID, so, yay, don't have that again. But I got a very cool thing that I've never had before, which is like a long-term doctor's note. I gave that to HR at my work at my clinic on Friday. Basically, it's like anytime I need off work for the next 6 months, I get it as an excused, sick time. I mean, eventually I'll run out of sick days, and then they'll have to be unpaid, but I can't get in trouble for taking time off for being sick, basically. So that's, I guess, nice. I think I've got 7 sick days left for the year. Plus I think I have 10 vacation days left. So if I needed to, I could take like 3 weeks off of work for illness. I'd rather not use them all that way. Being sick sucks. But that's where I'm at on this whole deal. I'm still not all the way better. I don't know how noticeable it is. I'm kind of nasally anyways. But I'm dealing with a lot of congestion still tonight. And if I go for too long, I'm wondering see what happens to my voice and my throat. But we'll get there.
Oh, it can't get any worse. Knock on wood.
Right, there we go. Knocked on some wood here at my desk. Actually, I don't think this is actual wood. This is like particle board or whatever. Anyways, those are our adventures in Sickland. Do you have any other adventures this week? Before
saw a hideous cheap that you appreciated, but that's Franken content.
True, that is Franken content. I got a new laptop that one of my coworkers gave me, actually. I didn't think about that until just now. It's sitting here next to me in a bag. She was like, "Do you want this?" It's an old laptop. I was like, "Sure." I mean, if you're just giving it away, I'll do something with it. I'm going to put Linux on it, because why not? Probably, give it to somebody who needs a computer. Like, I'll put Linux on it and mess with it for a little while. But I've got lots of clients who need technology, and it's old, but it still works. So, somebody who's a student or maybe who's retired and just wants to browse the interwebs and watch a few of the YouTubes, be perfect for them. But yeah. You wanna go ahead and dive into this big old topic about the Pokemans?
Yeah, so it's time for Game Club once again, where we intentionally played the same game, or close enough. I mean, there was a chance for Pokemon. Intentionally play the same game at the same time, and then sit down and have a long-form talk about it. And this time we've gone back to the emulation station, well, at least you have, and played Pokemon Ultra Sun. We did have the option to do Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, but we both wanted to do Sun.
Yep. I mean, I picked it based purely on the box art Pokemans.
Yeah, and for me it was just availability, because Anita had both available, but she was thinking about doing Ultra Moon at some point. She goes through and redoes the Pokemon games every so often, so it was the safer bet for me to monopolize for a year until I can pull the Pokemon off of it and send them over to Pokemon's home.
Right.
So I could add it to my collection.
Right. There's a lot of things in that sentence that I kind of understood, but also didn't. Let's very briefly, before we dive into the game, talk about.
I was going to say Pokemon's home. It's their central storage that you could transfer stuff over to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll eventually move the stuff I got in this over to there.
Gotcha. So let's talk very well. I don't know how briefly it'll be, but somewhat briefly about our history with Pokemon. I know that we've talked about this before, off mic and probably on mic, but since we're going to be talking about Pokemon for Game Club, let's talk a little bit about our history. I'm going to go first because this will be pretty quick for me. I played the original Pokemon games, Red and Blue, and then later I got Yellow. I've played Gold and Silver. I played Pokemon Snap, and then I played Pokemon Stadium on N64. And that's it. I think the last time I played a Pokemon game was like 1999 or maybe 2000. So, 20 plus years since I've played Pokemon.
Okay, so me, I started with the first generation, Pokemon Blue, and then I played the second gen, Pokemon Gold, and then kind of fell off of it for a very long time until I got together with Anita, played Sword, that's the latest one, barring the one that's going to come out later this year. Then kind of went back and played. Well, it's kind of a weird thing because they had the remake for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. So I've played that. I've played Legends Arceus, and I've also played a bit of the new Pokemon Snap. And yes, that's what they called it, the new Pokemon Snap. Because, right?
Yep.
And I did have Pokemon Stadium back in the day, but it was, that's more just to play the Game Boy game, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, I mean, play in 3D glory.
Mm-hmm.
Then in ye olden days of Pokemon, in case somehow, somebody listening doesn't know, they just use 2D sprites. In Pokemon Stadium, I believe was the first time that you could see, outside of the anime, but, at least in video game form, the first time that you could play Pokemon in actual 3D. And it did have its own little story, and it had its own separate gyms and stuff. But I mean, basically, you plugged in any one of the game cartridges that it was compatible with, which I think it was just the.
I think it was the first two generations. The first two generations, I think.
First two. Okay.
Now I need to go back and double check that one.
But you plugged in your cartridge and it read from your save file, and you could use your Pokemon in Stadium. And I honestly can't remember if they would level up in Stadium and then go back to the game leveled up.
Yeah, you could transfer them back and forth.
Okay.
You could actually use them as a little bit of a bank to transfer between games, or to even restart and then transfer old ones back over. So it's compatible with red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, and crystal.
Okay.
So the
So
first two generations.
yeah. Okay.
Oh,
But
sorry, that's Pokemon Stadium 2, which I think is the US version of Pokemon Stadium, because there was one that was released in Japan that never saw stateside release, that was a partial Pokedex that was mostly made for the competitive scene, which competitive Pokemon just, it baffles me.
it also baffles me.
But the thing about Pokemon is that the skill floor is extremely low. But if you wanted to, you could get just stupidly complex with strategy and training and breeding stuff, and it just gets crazy.
Yeah.
I did not get that far. I did a little bit of strategy, but it was mostly, I have a Snorlax that's high level. He's going to set on you now.
Yeah, at the time, my competitive game that I played was Yu-Gi-Oh! So, I was going to all the, the Books A Million and whatever, local game shops that had tournaments and playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments. I was not playing in the Pokemon tournament scene for either the card game or the video games. But yeah, that's our experience with Pokemon games. Like I've, got the original, a couple of extra things, and then a massive fucking gap. I guess technically I've shown my kid a couple of things on how to play Pokemon, but he has played a couple of Pokemon games now that I, have had nothing to do with. Other than just like, here's how, because I have an old Nintendo DS that I gave him, not a 3DS, but just the DS that I gave him a couple of years ago, and he's gotten a bunch of games for it that he's played through, and several Pokemon titles were included there. But yeah, I guess one of the things that I want to talk about first is before, like you're going to be able to explain a lot more of this more succinctly than me.
Yeah.
For reasons I'm about to explain, but I do want to talk a little bit about my experience diving back into this after a 20-year absence from playing the Pokemans. And that experience is both, I do recognize that this is like on me as someone who hasn't played in a long time, although I could imagine like kids playing for the first time, or maybe even adults playing for the first time might feel kind of the same way that I did here. But I do recognize a lot of this is on me as someone who's been out of the series for a long time. I found it to be extremely overwhelming. There were some parts of it that I liked a lot and could really appreciate. The, obviously 3D environments. I love the way that the world looks in the game and how you can run around and explore the countryside a lot more freely. Just that actual 3D feel for the exploration of it. The game feels a lot less directed. The traditional, go to town, beat gym, and progress. It's kind of still there, but it's not the same. It feels a lot more open, and I don't know if that's just me or if that's by design.
It's by design on this one, because I purposely chose a generation that, one, changed up a lot of things, but two, is a lot later in the series. That's, changed the formula somewhat.
Yeah. And then just so many new names and so many things that it has, like the little mini games and then like the island management thing, and so many different Pokemon. Although the Pokemon feel pretty good. Some of them I was kind of familiar with. My kid watched all of the Pokemon anime that was available on Netflix a couple of years ago. And so Alola, like there's a series that takes place in the Alola region. And so, like, Professor Kukui, I already was familiar with him, and a couple of the other characters show up in the anime. And then a couple of the Pokemon, like, a couple of the starters, like Litten and Rowlet, I was already familiar with from the show. And some of the broad story beats, the anime does kind of transfer some of the broad story beats, but, obviously it goes off in its own direction for the show. Some of it I was familiar with, but like it still was like, oh my god, there's this team and they're trying to steal Pokemon, and there's this other like weird floaty Pokemon that like can transport people and like destroy things, and what's going on with that, and why am I moving to this island, and why is the professor talking to me for 2 hours, and it's a lot. And I just wasn't expecting to feel so overwhelmed playing a Pokemon game. But in some ways I was very it was a very positive experience. Like I said, the changes to the way that the game looks, going from the last game I played being one that was 2D sprites, seeing beautifully rendered 3D. Granted, it's the game is on the 3DS. It's doing the best it can, and emulation does not help that any. Me playing this emulated on my computer. There's only so much you can do with emulation settings to sharpen an image before it's just really sharp pixels as opposed to really fuzzy ones. But still, it pulls it off well.
I mean, this
the
is
battle
coming up
environments
on
look good.
6 years old now.
Yeah, but the battle environments look good. The animations seem to be pretty smooth with no issues. Good effects. Battle music is nice. The sound effects or the Pokemon sounds are good. And I don't know a better way to say that, but I think I know what you mean. Because, I'm used to it back in the Sprite days, you would just have like a MIDI sound effect. It was like screeches.
They still have that for the most part. And that's one thing that kind of irks me about the Pokemon series is that they don't have to do that anymore, especially on the latest, on Sword. They don't have to do that. But only Pikachu really has its anime style, saying its own name. Everything else has that still kind of MIDI, but not quite.
Yeah, it's better. I don't know. Again, this is the perspective of 20 plus years away from the Pokemans. It feels better to me, but going back and playing them side by side or something, I might not feel that way. But I like that you can customize your character, whereas before that you can't do that. At least the last time I played, you couldn't customize your character. I don't know when that was added. Z moves are pretty cool. I think that was new to Alola, right? But
yeah, every generation has their own gimmick for the last 3 or 4 generations now.
Yeah.
So Alola's is Z moves, and it also gets into the previous generation's gimmick extremely late game, but that is limited to only a handful of the Pokemans.
Is that the Mega Evolutions?
Yeah,
I didn't get to that in game, but I heard people talking about that in some of the stuff I read.
Yeah, that's the Mega Evolutions that are limited to 20-ish Pokemon out of the 800 some.
Yeah.
So
that's another thing. There's a bajillion Pokemon. I don't know what most of them are.
Yeah, I believe it's 800 and some change in this game, and this is the last game, at least so far in the series, that has, at the time of its release, it's a complete Pokedex. Because Sword and Shield, they limited the number that they brought over. Although it looks like Scarlet and Violet, the ones that are coming out this year, will have more. Or a different set. Who knows?
Yeah. So, yeah, I realize that's kind of a bit of word salad, but that's how I felt playing it. Now, it was a good experience. I will say kind of at the top, or, near the top. I guess we're not at the top anymore, but, to kind of wrap this up, I did overall enjoy the experience, and I want to play more. I want to finish it. It makes me want to play some of the, especially Legends Arceus.
Arceus, yeah.
Legends Arceus. It makes me want to play that.
I would say Legends Arceus is my favorite of the Pokemon games I've played. Partly because it's so different. Legends Arceus is almost like if Pokemon and Monster Hunter had a baby.
Yeah. I feel like, because you suggested this specific, generation of Pokemon as a good place to get into or to jump back into the series. And I do think that overall, like, my experience has been positive. It has made me want to play Pokemon and to get back into the more modern games.
Yeah, and
as opposed to driving me away from the series.
Yeah, and there's a few reasons why I picked this particular generation. One, it's easily emulated. It's the last one that's easily emulated. Two, it changed up the formula a bit, which we'll get into in a little bit. Three, yeah, it's not sprite based, which there was only a couple games before this that were not sprite based. So kind of bring it forward a bit more in graphics, and also, at least according to Anita, which I agree with, it's a bit more fast paced on getting going on what's going on, because that's been a problem with the Pokemon series uh, for several of the early games, was that it would just take ages to really get going.
Yeah.
And also this, I believe this was the first one, if not the second, I might be mistaken on that one, to ditch the idea of hidden machines. So instead of having to have your HM bitch to hidden machines are from the early games where certain moves or certain abilities that the Pokemon can learn have a secondary use outside of battle for a particular reason. Like Fly will allow you to teleport around the map, and Strength would like push boulders, that sort of thing, to almost a Metroidvania-esque, unlocking new areas of the map as you progress and get new abilities. You could go back and explore areas that you couldn't before. Maybe find a secret. Maybe find some interesting items. Maybe find a Pokemon that would be really powerful and be good to use now. But this is one that didn't rely on having to have one particular Pokemon to teach all these moves to.
Yeah.
So that also lowered the barrier to entry.
You get your Poke Uber.
Yeah, the Poke Uber, the Poke Lift.
Yeah. But I
didn't use the one that dug in the ground too often. The giant dog.
Yeah. No, that was good too. I meant to I kind of got a little word salady, but I did want to say I like that as well. That there were no more HMs, because even I remember having the HM bitch. That's not what I called it in the 90s, but I'm I had the one Pokemon that could learn all the HMs and would just have them for when I needed it.
Looks like Generation 5 was the first one that started to remove them, and Generation 6 really ditched them. Which even the remakes, the remake of Diamond and Pearl, had not removed directly, but they relegated HMs to a different area of the game, so you didn't have to teach them to a particular Pokemon.
Right. Also, for anyone listening, I used Citra as my emulator. There's a bunch of 3DS emulators out there. Just all of the guides that I looked at, or most of them, recommended Citra as one of the best and easiest to use. I had a few issues, nothing major. It was just kind of dialing in the settings to get the game running as crisp and clean as possible at a good resolution. The 3DS, because of the 2-screen emulation, is weird. And that took me some getting used to and dialing in my resolution for that. And then I had some problems getting the controller set up properly. But that was just more trial and error because I didn't know what buttons did what, because I never owned a 3DS. So it was more just figuring stuff out as opposed to god-awful problems. It emulated well, it ran well. Save states are awesome. I wish all games had save states by default. Jesus.
Yeah, I didn't really well, I ran it on native hardware, so I didn't have save states, obviously, but it's save anywhere, and I only really had issues a couple times. I never actually got knocked out, but there was a couple times that things got a little dicey, which was nice to be kept on my toes outside of the championship battle, extreme end game, I should say. There was a couple times during the actual story that this is a tough fight, and I actually enjoyed it. And that's been an issue I had in other Pokemon games I've played where, pretty much just, get a decent team together and just steamroll. I took Rowlet, and I got a Munchlax off a hidden area in Route 1. And basically, those two were the core of my team for the entire game. Munchlax evolves into Snorlax, by the way.
Yeah.
Extremely defensive and a lot of HP, very tough to move, and only really has one particular weakness. And I taught it Hidden Power, which Hidden Power is an interesting move. It's based off a couple things off your Pokemon that you can't see through its hidden stats, and then based on those, it changes what Hidden Power's typing is. So I actually ended up with, I believe it was a Psychic Hidden Power, which would take out the one weakness Snorlax has. So
Right.
that was fun.
Yeah, I took Litten as my starter. I basically was just like, ooh, Pokemon. I'll take a new Pokemon. That Pokemon looks neat. That looks cool because they were almost all new to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, where I've played Swords, some of them have carried over, but some haven't. So, basically just took a core group that I'm comfortable with. The game does have a couple issues with how it dishes out Pokemon, in that certain typings just don't show up for a long time, particularly Fire type, which didn't really matter to you because you had Litten, which is a Fire type Pokemon.
Yeah.
But for me, it took me ages to get a Fire type, and one of the antagonists in the story, which I guess we'll get to now, it's best tackled with a Fire type. So shit, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the different Pokemon listed in the game. So I've got a Steenie. I like Steenie. They're basically I caught every Pokemon I could, but then I gravitated towards the ones that I recognized from the show.
Mm-hmm.
So not Rowlet. See, I got a Rockruff and a Steenie and
Making me wish I grabbed my 3DS.
And a Trumbeak. I started with Litten, and Litten is evolved into Torracat?
Mm. Do you know it's Final Evolution?
Yeah, I've seen it from the show.
Okay.
Incineroar.
Yeah. So I have a Rowlet that I named Hoots.
Cute.
Hang on, let me go get my 3DS so I can tell you my team, alright?
Okay.
So I don't have it wrong, so I'll be right back. I should have had it before. Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Okay, so I have a Gyarados who I've named Sushi. And I hit the wrong thing, of course, because that would be far too easy. My Decidueye, fully evolved, named Hoots. Snorlax, his name is Bulk. A Mudsdale named Daisy. A Magnezone named Probinator. And my sixth slot is the one that I usually swap out. Right now I have a Dratini that I'm working on evolving named Noodle.
Noodle. That's cute.
I also have what I took to the championship was let me find them in my box. Should be here. Yeah, a Metagross named Alphonse. Bonus points if you get that reference.
I don't.
Take a look at Metagross.
I was gonna say, I gotta look him up.
Metagross.
He's like a robot spider. What did you say you named him?
Alphonse.
Is that from Full Metal Alchemist?
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist.
Nice. I had to think about it for a second. And also I googled Full Metal Alchemist Alphonse.
In some of my other choice ones, I have a Tentacle named Calamari, a Whale Mirror that's named Moby, a Pancham named Pandemic, a Delmaz named Gilligan. I may have gone a little crazy with nicknaming things. What can I say?
Yeah. I want to get a Lycanroc, which is, I just know I got to level up and evolve my Rockruff.
Well, I did get a shiny as well, which is like a 1 in 6,000 chance to any Pokemon that you. Well, I should say most Pokemon that you encounter could be an alternative color scheme.
Yeah. I personally don't care about shinies. I know that lots of people, there have been communities online that have popped up around shiny hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And, nothing against the people who enjoy it, like more power to them. That's not, I don't care.
Well, it's more the fact that, finding one just randomly, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I may have gone a little nuts with just naming things.
That's okay. You're having fun with it. That's what matters.
And if you're wondering, yes, I did name something Skull. It's a Cubone.
Nice. I do know Cubone. I get that reference.
I got a Smeargle named Michelangelo. So, yeah. I mean, I had actually a lot of fun with the game in general. I will say that the story is a little out there, especially for a Pokemon game. But it is Pokemon. They play loose and fast with the lore in general. So the idea of other worlds is interesting.
Yeah, the sort of the interdimensional stuff.
Yeah,
which I'm much more familiar with from the anime from the game. I did not get super far in the game, story wise.
How far did you get?
I played it for about 20 hours, over the course of the month. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it was just like, oh, I'm going to run around. I'm going to see what Pokemans I can catch. I'm going to go explore up and down this beach. Oh, there's something hidden over there. Let me go check that out. Let me fight this guy.
Of 60, right at 70 hours. But also, I've been playing for 2 months.
Yeah.
So.
I did, let's see, there's the island challenges.
Yeah.
And I did the first one.
Yeah, the island challenges are basically the replacements, at least in this, for gyms. So, the primary thing of the story is that you're the new kid that moved in from the Kanto region. Yep, Gen 1's region. And you moved to Aloha that is, by the way, no way it's Hawaii. No way it's Hawaii.
Definitely not Hawaii. Wink.
And the locals say, well, you should do the Island Challenge, which is something that kids do when they reach Pokemon traveling age of 10 or 11. So you start that, and then shenanigans happens. Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
You get caught up in a battle for control between Team Skull, which I know that they're modeled after rappers and hip hop, but every time you encounter one, to me it looks like they're swatting at a mosquito.
Okay, I didn't think about it that, but yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
You're caught up between those two. And there's no way that the other team is also evil, right?
Right.
I'm trying to think of what really to go into on the story, because it is your general Pokemon story. Instead of gyms, you're going on island challenges, which each one is tailored for a particular type in general. But it's not a laser focus on, okay, well, this is the rock type. There's a little bit more leadway on it, and then you fight a totem Pokemon of some sort.
Yeah,
which are a significant boosted difficulty.
So here's the story from the anime, and tell me how close this is to the full story of the game.
Okay.
There's this little cloud-looking Pokemon guy who they call Nebby.
Yes.
And
he's in the game.
So Ash fills the role of the player character
Hmm.
in the Pokemans. They just stuck with Ash. So yeah, there's the little cloud guy named Nebby, and he teleports people around kind of accidentally. And Ash trains at like goes to the Pokemon school and trains, and then he does all of the island challenges, and then they go on a quest to level up Nebby and evolve him into Solgaleo. Is that how you say it? Am I saying that right? Solgaleo? Solgalelo? Like the big like lion
Yeah.
Pokemon god. And then they get teleported into the alternate dimension land, and they have to escape from alternate dimension land, and then the whole plot happens between with Team Skull, and then there's a big tournament arc, and then the series ends as Ash leaves, having become friends with another Pokegod.
All right.
Is that
Not
more?
not really. I mean, Debbie's there obviously, but the thing is that the Aster team, the good team, is wanting to use Debbie's power to basically bridge the gap in between dimensions and well, at times they use the term other dimensions, other worlds, but then they make it also look like it's transporting in the same universe to a different place, you know?
Yeah,
So they kind of use those interchangeably, but to help and heal other Pokemon there. And I mean, it's a noble goal, but at the same time, they've are so focused on helping that they don't see how much they're hurting as well, right?
yeah,
So, uh, you have that, and then you have the Ultra Research or Ultra Recon team that's from another world far off that had an Ultra Beast that basically consumed all light there, and they're worried that uh, this other team's meddling is going to basically awaken the Ultra Beast and call Ultra Beasts are basically Pokemon, but not Pokemon. Uh, Very over designed, very weird looking, even compared to Pokemon. You should go look at Ultra Beast, by the way.
okay,
There's one that's sort of a clown. Uh, they're worried that this evil, like consuming Ultra Beast is going to come to Alola and devour light there, and light as in essentially life, but right.
yeah,
Gotta have it kind of peachy because right.
yeah. So some of these show up in the anime.
Yeah, you fight
They
one pretty early in the game.
they probably call them Ultra Beasts in the anime,
Hmm.
and I just didn't
Yeah,
realize it.
yeah, and they show up also later on in the story as catchable Pokemons. But there's the primary one, Necrozma, that you have to worry about that is more story relevant. And the Ultra Recon team are helping, but kind of not. This one team to establish Ultra wormholes to try to bring light back to their world.
Yeah,
So I know it's a very odd story. Saying it out loud.
but I mean, aside from the first Pokemon game, which still is really weird because it's like, hey, a 10 or an 11-year-old kid goes on an adventure and beats literally the best in the world at this thing. All Pokemon stories are weird. And that's
Yeah.
fine. Like that's the world that Pokemon exists in, but yeah, they're all weird.
Yeah, anyway, Lily steals Debbie from uh, uh, Team Asmir and is constantly trying to help you while finding a way to, yep. Uh, he- trying to think of what exactly she is doing in the early game because, right?
Yeah.
It's been a couple months for me now. Trying to figure out how to help Debbie, essentially. And hide Debbie from. Actually, her mom is the president of the evil team, or not the evil team, but the good evil team, right?
Yeah, that's actually part of the anime as well.
Hmm. Along
Although,
with her brother and right.
yep, her brother's there in the anime too.
Hmm.
So I guess they got some of the broad story beats and used the characters, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's also possible. It's also possible that I missed a lot not paying attention while my kid was watching Pokemon. Like I'm sitting over there on my laptop or reading a book or something. And it's like,
All right.
yeah, Pokemons, gotta catch them all. Who's that Pokemon? It's Eevee. They still have those cutaways in
Mm,
the original series
yeah.
Pokemon stuff on Netflix.
Well, that makes me happy at least.
Yeah, they kept those. They didn't cut them. My kid has said to me, like, why do they just always tell you the answer? And I said, well, son, in the before times, there was this thing called television. And on this television, there would be commercials. And those
Mm.
would be before and after the commercial break.
I'm trying to think of anything else to really cover on the story because do we really want to get into the in-game stuff? I mean, you obviously you become champion. They're establishing the Alola Pokemon League that's kind of going alongside the island challenges that yeah residents have taken on for however long.
Yeah,
But they've also just are starting to establish their Elite Four and essentially the in-game Pokemon League stuff. So there is that as well. And yeah, obviously become champion, battling your way through, having your Snorlax sit on people because, right?
of course.
I would say actually the most interesting story part of this game is the post game.
What's different
So
in the main story and
okay,
the post game? What changes?
okay, so the actually the original Pokemon Sun and Moon, they didn't have this section of post game called Rainbow Rocket. They basically bring back all the bad guys from the previous Pokemon games as one big evil team. And you just go through, deal with them and their legendaries, and they hint at that they're alternate versions where the player character wasn't there to foil them. Like Giovanni from Gen 1 is there. He's the ringleader of them because, of course, he is.
Of course.
And he's talking about how he's never met somebody so talented as he took over the world.
Does he have Mewtwo?
Actually, yes.
Wow. Do you free Mewtwo as part of the story?
No.
No.
No, but you are able to. I'm not sure if you could get Mewtwo in this, but one of the things that you could get pretty late game is the ability to run in the Ultra Wormholes. And you can encounter legendaries there and other Pokemon that you can't find in the main game. So I spent a little bit of time just, riding the wormhole and see what I get.
Right in the wormhole. I like that.
And there's just a lot of stuff that you could get in the weeds on working on. Like just finding rare Pokemon in the Ultra Wormholes, working on your festival, which I think is more tied to Street Pass, which is not defunct, but practically at this point.
Yeah, definitely not usable for me.
Well, it was hardly usable for me. Then the island, the Pokeopolis, where
Yeah.
it's the management Pelago, sorry, where it's a real time sort of management thing going on, where you can get beans to upgrade the other islands or to feed your other Pokemon in the main game to make them more friendly to you, which gives better stats or makes it so that they have a chance of not getting knocked out if they're happy or if they're friendly enough with you, or they might have a higher crit chance or things like that.
Yeah.
Training, sending them off to get various things, or the berry farms also here, where in previous games you're able to essentially bury plant berry bushes that you come back later and can harvest for berries that have various bonuses. Some of them are, just a little heal, while later on, more rare and powerful berries might make it so that a super effective attack does normal damage for one time. Or a berry might restore the power points of a move. Or it might make the Pokemon more friendly to you. That sort of thing. The island chain helps you by having them all kind of condensed down into one central location, which is actually really nice.
Yeah.
Then there's the battle tree, which is essentially a battle tower of just escalating uh, more difficult battles with actually better AI. They don't just use random moves, and you'll encounter trainers that have a actual strategy going in for their moves and their Pokemon. And there's the Battle Royale as well, which is basically a one-on-one-on-one-on-one. It's four trainers fighting one another.
Yeah, and you get, what is it, 1 point for every knockout you get, but as soon as one person loses all three of their Pokemon, then it automatically ends no matter what else is left.
Yeah, which leads to some interesting things of, oh, well, suddenly I want to help this guy, right?
Yeah. I liked the Battle Royale mode. I thought that was neat. A different take on Pokemon battles.
Yeah, which that, along with a few other places, give you battle points that allow you to buy rare items or stat increasing items, that sort of thing. Yes, I do a slight mic head. I mean, like I said, this game is actually packed full of stuff to do. And if you just want to focus on the main story, there's no real punishment for it. But if you go off in the weeds and start working on, well, I want to see what I can find by going in the Ultra Worms holes, or, I want to, poke around on the Battle Royale. You don't actually get access to the battle tree, the essentially the tower battles till, post game stuff. So that's a little bit out of the way.
Yeah.
Or, sit and work on breeding to try to improve your Pokemon. Because breeding is also a big thing.
I like that there's ways to level up your Pokemon outside of just directly cycling them through combat. The Poke Paradise or whatever.
Yeah.
They level up there, and then your team levels up evenly, even if you're not using
it's
them.
not quite evenly. It's whoever's took part in battle gets essentially full experience. Then everybody else gets half experience.
Right, but fair enough. But I like that way more than the olden days of like, all right, I'm trying to train up my Metapod. Let me start with him and then immediately switch to another Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah, it does make things a lot easier. Or even just, go into the islands and put them on training for a while.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not planning on playing for a while. Although I'm not sure how emulation handles it.
Good question. I didn't really experiment with it other than like sending some off while I was playing and then coming back to it. The internal clock doesn't tick on the emulator. At least there, you might be able to change that, but basically the emulator looked at whatever my system clock said the time was and then used that for the in-game time.
Okay, so that would be close enough. Because that's how the 3DS handles it.
Okay, well then it probably works the same. I haven't tested it over an extended period of time.
If there's a change on the time, if you change the system clock, it does flag for certain events to not happen for a while. But I'm not 100% sure if what ones it is in this particular game.
So you can't like flip the system clock a bunch of times to get events and XP and stuff?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they limit it on this one. I would have to actually experiment with that one, but I never really was wanted for experience or anything outside of Well, I need to level this particular Pokemon because I need a like a psychic type, and I don't have one available. But for all the trouble, I'll just go battle for a while, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything specific that I want to add. Like, I've let you've been talking a lot because you played a lot more in the story and you know the Pokemon a lot better than I do. The only thing that I keep coming back to in my head is like, I liked this, and I'm kind of surprised that I did. Not because I thought that it would be bad or stupid, but just like I was so like, I think I the way that I have thought about it is that I have been so far removed from this series that has gone on for so long that getting back into it would be insurmountable. And like I said at the beginning, it felt very overwhelming at first, but it wasn't, oh God, I can't play this. I don't know what I'm doing. Because it's still, at the end of the day, it's Pokemon. Like you said, it's got a very low skill floor. It's easy to get into because it is designed to be played primarily by a younger audience. But the skill ceiling is extremely high.
I mean, there's some absolutely crazy strategy that people have come up with.
Yeah, but, I had no problem getting in. I had no battles that gave me any real trouble. Perhaps, later on in the game, that some stuff could come up where I had a bad team and I'd have to go grind a little bit. But, at the end of the day, it's Pokemon. You've got a lot of the rock, paper, scissors stuff, but there's so much other things that have been added over the years that, as long as you're not just, I don't know, sending a bunch of fire types against only water types, you've got a lot of wiggle room. And the Z moves add stuff to the game, and I'm sure the Mega Evolutions will
that's
too.
something we haven't talked about is the Z moves. What do you think of them?
They're neat. They feel extremely powerful early on, which I think is the point. But then as I got a little bit farther into the game, and I would imagine this happens the farther you go, they start to feel less just overpowered and more like, okay, this is a tool. This is a really powerful move that I have when deployed in the right circumstances.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about them after about the halfway point. They're essentially, and I'm going to compare them to a summon from the Final Fantasy series. They're extremely powerful attack of a particular type, depending on the move that you have them attached to. And different Pokemon also have a specialized Z crystal as well. So, like, your starter eventually gets one that is tied into their signature move. So, like, Decidueye, it has a specialized crystal for just that Pokemon that's a Ghost-type move. And it ties into Decidueye's signature move that only that family really gets.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you set it up poorly, it feels like, it's a long animation for really nothing. Because it's balanced off of the power of that move. And also the type. So if you have like a defensive bonus, or a defensive move, and you have a Z Crystal attached for that, instead of an attack, it's a defense. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if a healing move would actually do that. Now that I think about it, I didn't test that. Yeah, I guess I should have.
Yeah, I didn't test that either. But I like how you just compared it actually to summons from Final Fantasy. That's perfect. Long animation, very cool looking, very flashy, and it is powerful.
And honestly,
like said,
some of the animations are just hilarious. Like the Snorlax one, he's just getting up and running full breakneck speed at the enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, fastest I've ever seen one move. Must have a sandwich or something in front of him.
His favorite sandwich. But
yeah, they're an extremely powerful move. Oh, and you can only use them once a battle. That's the kind of gotcha moment. And you do have occasionally a trainer that will use them against you. But once again, once per battle, and it's usually a named trainer, one of the big people in the storyline. And even then, it only shows up occasionally. And even Mega Evolutions, only encountered them twice. And I didn't have any Pokemon that I got the crystals for. I know that Gyarados has one, but you have to essentially just go grind in the battle tower for a while. And I had other things to do.
Yeah. So I mentioned this to you before we started recording. Whenever we do Game Club, I will play, and then like day of, maybe day before we're going to record, I will look at, read or watch reviews for the game that we played and see how their thoughts lined up with mine, and if it maybe answered any questions I had before we came and talked or whatever. This was the most unhelpful one I've ever done, and I think it's because it's Pokemon. Because every review that I looked at said either 10 out of 10, best Pokemon game yet, can't wait to see what they have in the future, or, 1 out of 10, utter garbage, skip this one and hope they do better next time. And there was like nothing in between. And I'm sure if I went and browsed YouTube for a while or some, smaller reviewers or something like that, I could find more nuance. But I'm just like, this makes sense. It makes sense because it's Pokemon. That kind of seems to happen every single time there's one of these games that releases. Very few that I can think of that most people tend to agree one way or the other. So,
I mean, Pokemon Ultra Sun on Metacritic has an 84 with a user score of 7.7, which once again, positive 139, negative 22, mixed 22 on user reviews.
Yeah.
There's actually nobody that's outright negative on this.
Well, I was looking at reviews for Sun and Moon, and then Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, just to see, like, I know that Ultra Sun and Moon were, not quite remakes, but not quite expansions either. Different.
I would
with
say
some added
more
stuff.
refinement.
Yeah. So I was kind of looking at the original and then the refinement, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I think that's my final thought. Like, it's a Pokemon game. Look, the stuff that you look at, probably is going to go heavily one way or the other. For my take, I think it's a good game. It's a good place to either get back in if you haven't for a while, or if you're a new player. Be prepared to be overwhelmed a bit, but stick with it, and it will get you through the initial sort of like, oh my god, there's so many things here. And there's a genuinely good game underneath that feels fairly balanced. Pretty fairly balanced with what you can do with it, and offers a lot of cool stuff. And it's, like you said, easy to emulate. My major problems with the emulator were just the initial setup process of getting the control set up and getting it to look as good as I could for my hardware configuration.
Yeah, and since I was playing on actual hardware, I didn't have the issues on that one. I would say that if you have access to actual hardware, it's well worth checking out. The problem is Nintendo games, particularly Pokemon, do not go down in value. As a matter of fact, they just go up. So, really the only way you're going to find this for cheap is like at a yard sale, which good luck, right?
Yeah.
So, just for the fun of it. You're like, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. 30 to 40 bucks. So, I would say it's a good entry point if you have, the handheld already. If you've never played Pokemon. If you don't have the hardware, check it out on emulation. And I would say that if you want another experience, check out some of the remakes that they've made on the Switch. But yeah, the Pokemon series actually kind of surprised me and impressed me with just how much they've improved over time. Are they still tied to that original formula? Yes. But also, no. They've changed things up quite a bit with just their gimmicks over the years. It's a shame that they discard them after each generation, but it also kind of keeps things fresh. So, right?
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, I still like knew and felt like I was playing Pokemon. But also, there was plenty of new and different stuff to enjoy. Overall, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah,
Would
and
recommend.
and I would agree with you. 2 thumbs up. I would recommend. Really, I don't think I've played what I would consider a bad Pokemon game outside of it just being dated in design. Going
Yeah.
back to Red and Blue, I think it would be tough at this point, short of the remakes. Because right,
Yeah. I wouldn't mind giving that a try though.
maybe that'll be another game club.
Yeah. Someday. Perhaps sooner than you think. Who knows?
But speaking of game clubs, unless you have anything you want to add.
Nope. I'm ready for the next one, which is drum roll. Bulletstorm.
The full clip edition.
Yep.
So going from cutesy fighting monsters to over the top ultra violence.
Over the top. I would say cartoon ultra violence with how you've never played this, right?
No, I have. I know of the game, but I never actually played it.
Yeah. You'll know what I mean by that when you start playing it. Cartoon ultra violence. I have played I don't know what the differences are between the original and the full clip edition, but I played the original Bulletstorm on Xbox 360 mini.
Well, full clip is also what's available now, so
Yeah, that's true.
and I'm not bothering with the DLC.
Hey, I guess I gotta install this. It's a relatively short game. I want to say maybe 15 hours to play through the whole thing. Maybe. How long to beat say it is? Oh, really? It says 25 to 30 hours. I wonder if I'm just misremembering or if full clip adds a decent amount of content to the game. I remember it being really short, but last time I played it was 10 years ago, maybe? Because we still lived in our first apartment. That was right after Katie and I got married was when I played it. So that'd have been about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years. Anyways.
I was also putting that in the Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing Total Biscuit show this game off. Oh, God, right?
Yeah. I'm reading through to see what it says. Includes all existing Bulletstorm add-ons plus new content exclusive to full clip. So, there you go. Anyways, Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. Pick it up on Steam. It's $40 right now. It's been on sale for as low as $5 in the past.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I had it, right?
Yeah. Same. So yeah, we will hit that for our September Game Club. Ready to move on to a couple of community corner topics?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, actually, the historic low, according to this, is $2.
Oh, well, there you go.
And it currently has a 10% voucher off Fanatical games, bringing it down to just over 30. But yeah, certain games just get dirt cheap. Never Nintendo ones, but right.
No, never Nintendo ones, but other games. Very cheap. All right. So the only news topics we're going to cover this week was stuff that was submitted to Community Corner. Our first one up. Least likable developer on Steam may have hit the limit of its permissive moderation. It's being Steam's permissive moderation. The last two Gymquisitions have had to deal with this.
Oh, this week's was just absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
It does make me a little sad because I reviewed this game back in the day when I was active on YouTube. It had issues, but I thought it was an okay game. Turns out the developer, not an okay person.
Nope, not an okay person.
So should we get into that first?
Yes.
Oh, basically, this person is just way, way, way over into the far right of the political spectrum, and has drank a little bit too much Kool-Aid on conspiracy theories, and also has this whole alpha male attitude and is really obsessed with dicks for some reason.
Yes, really obsessed with dicks.
I mean, seems a little gay to me, even though they'll allegedly they'll claim not. But anybody that's that obsessed with masturbation, dicks, calling out people being femboys based on their patch notes, I'm just imagining gayer than you, or they want to be gayer than you, but right?
Way too in the closet for it.
Yeah. Allegedly, of course.
Allegedly. So yeah, so I'm going through looking for some of the actual quotes on what he's done. So he's, among other things, in patch notes has been inserting statements, bits of what seem like a trench coat mafia level manifesto, saying things as air quote simple as equating support for trans youth as supporting pedophilia, telling people to take their masks off, calling them femboys for wearing masks.
This was mid-pandemic, or I should say the height of the pandemic.
Yes. Saying that women are not interested in men who wear masks.
Oh, weird. I got married and I wore one.
Hey, yeah. I'm still married. I wore masks. I still wear them.
So let's see. Let's go over to his patch notes. So, this. I happened to click on the most infamous one. So, this is. Oh, okay. So this was back in March. So, not height of the pandemic. Just, things have calmed down, and this guy just goes off because, right?
Yeah.
Fixed minister might not be able to buy wine, water, even when available on the market. Fixed minister, blah blah blah. Fixed this, fixed that. Optimized a couple of things. Take off your fucking masks, right?
Yeah.
And it just go back to bouncing prestige, maximum training. It's just the fuck, right?
Yeah. On the one hand, I get the idea of wanting to put weird things in like patch notes just to see like who's going to read them. Because I've heard stories of, developers putting all kinds of weird shit in EULAs just to see if they ever get called out for it. Or like one, I can't remember who it was, but this is, I guess, an apocryphal story of like a developer who put in their EULA that if someone contacted them saying that they read the EULA and gave them like the code, and it had like a code listed, that they would be sent $10,000 in the mail. And like nobody ever took them up on that because nobody reads EULAs. So I kind of get wanting to be like, fuck all this bullshit in the middle of a patch note. But you don't do that shit because this is what happens. At least if you're going to be horribly, if you were making funny jokes, it would be fine. But being transphobic and racist and anti-science and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, not good. No bueno.
Yeah, then he got suspended from Twitter for fighting James Stephanie Sterling. Or I should say not even fighting, just threatening repeatedly while they just ignored him. Right?
Yeah. So that was... Yeah, I heard about this on last week's Gymquisition. Or not Gymquisition, Podquisition. And then this week's Gymquisition was a full breakdown of what happened, because all of the madness was still ongoing when they recorded last week's Podquisition. But essentially, they ignored this person on Twitter so much that they had a meltdown and they wound up getting their Twitter account banned, as well as some other stuff banned. It was beautiful. Because it was the whole, like, I'm not being owned, guys. I'm not being owned. No one is owning me. I'm not even mad. And it moved beyond, like, me think you doth protest too much to, like, whoa, dude, you need to chill the fuck out. But they didn't. They didn't chill the fuck out.
I'm gonna quote, "This is sad." Oh, I mean, I do wonder what was the tipping point on this? Because a lot of this just seems recent, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm going back through the patch notes, and they look pretty normal on the random ones I'm grabbing. I could just be grabbing the wrong ones, admittedly. But, things look pretty normal, even, height of pandemic. And then suddenly, this year, I think maybe just a little too much Fox News, or...
Could be a little too much Fox News, or a combination of like some stuff. They had some stuff happen in their life that pushed them over the edge. Like, I don't know anything about this dude, personally. I don't want to seem like I'm giving him too much slack. Like, even if you're having a bad time in your life, that's not an excuse for you to be just a horrible shitheel of a person, right?
Yeah.
But it could be, any number of things that pushed him over the edge to where he started doing this stuff and then had a meltdown.
Yeah, and with this much of a public meltdown, you're going to be beyond toxic for anybody to work with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that they were a solo developer, and now they're definitely going to be.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen that they also put out a shit ton of DLC for this game that is just all minor, essentially minor features that should be in the base game added to it, which is shit. Like having an expanded inventory that's $3. I'm not paying playing a fucking mobile game.
Ooh, this is something I've never seen before. So I finally went from looking at different news articles to actually going to the Steam community page. It says content posted in this community may not be appropriate for all ages or may not be appropriate for viewing at work. I've never seen that even going to look at porn games community content.
Oh.
Here's the face mask one, though, that I was talking about earlier. Take out the fucking masks. Next time you're at the grocery store, try showing a woman your face. Be confident, unafraid of the lies. You might get a girlfriend. Women like confidence. Women don't like dudes who cover their faces in fear. What are you afraid of? Getting laid? Grow up. And then, the next line, balancing, prestige max, blah, blah, blah.
The discussion forums are just gold. I took off my mask at a grocery store. After spotting a female, I tried showing her my confidence. My palms were sweaty, but I approached her and took off my mask. She was staring at me, but she did not become my girlfriend, nor did we mate. In the past notes, there were no further steps listed, so I took off my pants as well. And then a security guard approached me, and I was banned from the grocery store. 1 out of 10, bad game.
Beautiful.
Oh.
Oh, God. Here's one. Seems hypocritical. This one's decently long. But basically, it's someone being like, why are people so upset about this? A few months ago, people like Ark Survival Evolved were upset about Roe v. Wade. Actually, they said Joe v. Wade. I don't know if that's a genuine mistake or if they think somehow it's like Joe Biden or something. Don't know. But like for Roe v. Wade, and urged everyone to donate to abortion clinics. When people criticized them, they were shut down by supporters saying it's their game. Let them have their own views.
That's not exactly apples and apples.
No. Also, then the post goes on about what they say the Witcher developers, CD Projekt. They don't say CD Projekt. They say the Witcher developers, but CD Projekt Red talking about the Russian-Ukraine war and expressing pro-Ukraine sentiments. It's like nobody said anything about them. Listen, I don't know why. I don't know what I'm supposed to follow it up with. People like this don't understand. They just don't get it.
Don't understand, right?
Yeah, they just don't understand. Like, sure, if you're in many, not just America, but many places in the world that, claim to allow free speech and for the most part do, like, sure, you can say whatever you want, but if people don't like what you say, for whatever reason, they have the right to either, ignore you, avoid you, or shut you down if they have the power to do so. Like, the idea of free speech is only a protection from government interference.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, dude, most people think that all of this in modern society is bullshit. Most people are not for most people are for, I should say, to make this easier to say, most people are for equal rights and in favor of the LGBTQ community and in favor of abortion and women being able to make their own healthcare choices. Like, so if you're going to be anti all of those things, yeah, you can get shouted down by the community and by companies or other developers or whatever, depending what the thing is. It's like, they can do that. Fuck off.
And also considering that there's a difference between a developer saying, hey, go donate for this cause if you believe in it, and someone yelling in Patch Notes and banning people and just being a general asshole.
Yeah.
That's something that's always gotten me. Is at times can society get a little too far on political correctness? Of course. But then there's the far right assholes that use that as an excuse to be an asshole. Right? It's just, I don't like this thing, so I'm going to be as terrible as possible.
Yeah. Like, rule number 1, in my view, is don't be a dick. And if you're being a dick, then you deserve, there's a high chance that you deserve what you get coming to you. So, yes. Don't be a dick.
Well, it looks like this guy did not get your memo. And, but at least he's not mad, right?
Right. He's not mad. He wasn't owned. Nobody did those things.
Oh.
All right.
And he's definitely not, he's not like ultra gay, right?
No, definitely not ultra gay. He's only obsessed with genitals in the way that a cis straight man should be.
You think he would feel a lot better if he just jerked one off,
Probably. Oh, wasn't that another one of his things
Yeah.
going on, talking about how people shouldn't masturbate?
Yeah.
A lot of positive health benefits associated with masturbation, my guy. Although you're anti-science, so you wouldn't know that.
Which, wasn't that also something for the Proud Boys? They're manly men that don't jerk off, and
Probably.
they only will ejaculate in a female. Oh.
Probably there's something in the Bible about like you're not supposed to quote unquote spill your seed. I remember this from Sunday school. I don't know why they were teaching 9-year-olds about not pulling out, but and that's indoctrination, folks. But anyways, that's like a passage in the Bible, like God kills somebody because he didn't want to get somebody pregnant.
But there's also a passage in the Bible how women shouldn't be in positions of power.
True. Very true. So fuck those women, both literally and metaphorically.
Probably my favorite, I think it's a fake Twitter. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how God only made 2 genders. And there's a response, no, he actually only made one and a rib. But I wouldn't expect a rib to know that.
Sick burn.
I'm pretty sure it's fake, but at the same time, I want it to be real.
Yeah, I once had a woman, like a woman, tell me that women have 1 fewer ribs, or that men have 1 fewer ribs than women because God used 1 rib to make Eve. Like, all men throughout all history and time have 1 fewer rib than women because God took the rib to make women. I'm like, I was like 18 or 19 at the time. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to this. Like, you're a fucking retard. That was 18-year-old me. But like, that was my thought process. But like, I can't say that to you. I probably shouldn't say that now, but say la vie.
Although the shoe fits.
Yeah. God.
Or I guess I should say the sandal.
Some stupid, especially religious people out there. There's stupid people from all walks of life, but I find that there's a higher concentration of them among the highly religious.
Well, I always take the Dawkins quote, religion poisons everything. And Some people don't have much tea poison up there.
Touche. I'm now starting to get mad at like all at stupid people and bigoted people, which is I think the appropriate response, but we should probably move on before I say something I shouldn't. Granted, I could always fix it in post, but that takes effort.
So
So,
on to potentially something silly.
yeah. PlayStation hit by 5.9 billion with a B lawsuit for quote ripping people off on digital games.
So the argument, and this is according to the article, is that Sony has a near monopoly on the sale of digital games, particularly on the PlayStation games, and so it shouldn't be using all that power to enforce unreasonable prices on customers. That's consoles, right?
Yep. I mean, one, you're not wrong. Like, especially like, yes, Sony has a monopoly, especially on the Sony digital games or on digital games sold on Sony's, store, their proprietary platform. Yes, that is a factually true statement. And I think sort of it's a true statement in the spirit of console gaming. You've only got 3 players, and whether you're playing Xbox, PlayStation, or on a Switch or the other Nintendo consoles that still have access to their eShop, like whatever ecosystem you're in, that's it. So you're not wrong, but also that's the nature of the market, which doesn't make it right. But if you want to have more choices, at least for now, PC, baby. PC market's where it's at.
This isn't even consumer facing. This is a consumer's right advocacy group suing Sony for charging 30% commission fee on all digital purchases made through the UK PlayStation Store. That's about standard for the industry these days.
That's true. When I saw that, I was like, well, I mean, that's what Apple charges people. I think Google only does 15 or 20%. But 30, for better or for worse, 30% is standard. And I think that's too high, but that's from sort of a layman's perspective and also my like fuck capitalism, steal everything that isn't nailed down perspective. 30% seems like way too much to me. But you're right, that's pretty spot on for the industry standard. For better or for worse, that's where it's at.
Mind you, Sony does do the heavy lifting on distribution of code and downloads. It's not like, you have to set up some sort of server to be able to download your games, right?
Yeah.
Is that worth 30%? Most likely not. But at the same time, negotiate, right?
Yeah. On the one hand,
PC
on the one hand, I find this commendable. I do think it's important that people are able to organize and fight for or try to change things that they see as being unjust in the world. Certainly, that can be done poorly. Groups can pop up that use this to try to oppress or harm other people. But whenever you're doing this in good faith, in this case, reducing price gouging on developers, which either means, developers get more take-home money, or they're able to lower the price so that consumers can more easily afford the end product. Like, both of those things I think are good. The way to tackle this specific problem is not with a lawsuit by a consumer activist group, but to, one, continue to unionize the games industry so that all of the developers, whether they be, developer groups within a much larger developer like Activision or whatever, or be they small groups of indie developers or multiple small teams, have organizations that they can come together under for that collective bargaining power. I know that in America we tend to use lawsuits to try to fix everything because our system is fucked up, like one of the worst fucked up ones in quote unquote the Western world. But lawsuits will not solve this problem,
or at least by a random advocacy group. If this was a group of developers trying to change things, I feel like this would get a lot more traction.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, the article at least, and it might just be the way it's written, makes it sound like they're so out of touch with what's going on as an industry.
Yeah.
And that it, well, I agree with one of the comments that it sounds like a lawyer convinced them to sue. Uh, do I wish things were different? Of course. But I also, choose your battles, right?
Yeah.
Also, talking about Sony having a near monopoly on their own platform feels just weird and out of place. And also, why were they focusing Sony and not, hell, Nintendo would be even worse about it, right?
Yeah.
Or Xbox, with Microsoft, or it just feels so weird that they're going after one but none the others.
Yeah. It seems to me, and I could be very wrong. This is pure speculation, 100%.
Allegedly.
100% making this up based on my own thoughts and feelings. This seems like somebody's got an axe to grind against Sony specifically. Be it another company who's trying to do this as a way to, underhandedly disrupt or distract Sony, or perhaps a, lawyer or a specific developer that has been slighted by them. That's like, fuck it, we'll do it this way, and I'll get back at them in a little bit. That's what I feel about this. It's just, it feels so odd. And I could be wrong. Like I said, 100% just speculating, spitballing for that idea. But it feels so odd the way that it's being done, even as a lawsuit. Like, why, what's a consumer, or what's an advocacy group doing, coming on behalf of these other companies or developers, like, of their own accord? Like, it just feels very strange to me. Like somebody has an axe to grind.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that one. I think it's just the wording of it all,
Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess that turned out not to be, like, funny, but oh well.
Oh well. So that's a thing?
Yep, that's a thing. So, how can people send us stuff if they want to make suggestions or chat with us? Like, how can they do that?
Drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at vglpodcast.podbean.com. You could email us over at vglpodcast@gmail.com, or tweet us over at vglpodcast on the Twitter. But please don't be too hateful with us. We're delicate.
Yes, I'm very delicate, like a flower.
So did you want to do doobly do or call it a night?
No, let's call it a night. I'm starting to. Some of the meds are starting to wear off.
Yeah, and I'm still a little coughy and wheezy and bleh.
Yeah. So, hey Rage, why don't you hit him with them socials?
Oh, I've been Caffeine Rage. You can find me occasionally tweeting over at Gaming with CR. You've been my friend with me over on Steam, Caffeine Rage. And you've been?
I have been Jared. You can find me on Twitter at JMA4707. You never know what I'm going to be tweeting. Could be a meme, could be some shit posting. You never know. You can be my friend on Steam or talk to me directly on the Discord. I'm jarthur4707 on both of those places. And Wednesday night, I am now running the tabletop game that we're playing over there. Still Vampire the Masquerade. This one is called Adventure Itself. You can find that over at twitch.tv/runicarts.
And once again, you could contact us, VGLpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, game-related topics, or tweet them to us, VGLpodcast, or drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that, as well as most of our other stuff over at VGLpodcast.podbean.com. If you wish to share the love, you can also find us on your podcatcher of choice. Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this possible. You find out more about that over at patreon.com/VGLpodcast. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Ken McLeod. You can find his work over at incompetech.com. And, as always,
as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See ya.
Bye bye.